Welcome to Three Devs and a Maybe, the podcast series for beginner web developers and general web enthusiasts. Now, introducing your show hosts, Michael Budd, Fraser Hart, Lewis Keynes, and Ed Mann.
Hi everyone and welcome to another episode of Three Devs and a Maybe. I am joined by Ed Mann.
Hello.
Fraser Hart.
Hello.
We have a special guest today in the form of Frank de Jonge. Did I get that right, Frank?
Yeah, you got that right, yeah.
High five, Mickey.
Yeah, we should let the audience know we have been discussing the pronunciation before the podcast for about 5 minutes, was it, Michael?
But
yeah, I think you did well.
Thanks.
Yeah, that was one of the most proper pronunciations I've heard so far.
Yeah, look at that.
Boom.
Dutch speaking person, so good on you.
Thank you very much. But thank you for coming on the show and giving up your spare time to come and talk to us about a little bit about what you do and everything. So what we'll do, we'll just have a quick whip around the group and just see what everyone's been up to, really. So let's kick off with Ed Mann. How's your exciting week been?
Yeah, it's been exciting. Been very busy.
Yeah,
You've built this up now, you know. So if I just say no, it's rubbish, then.
But you've been working on an app. Are you still doing all that?
Still doing the app stuff, the Swiss stuff. We've released almost onto version 1 now, nicknamed Martha, because I have no idea why, but you know, it's a good name. Yeah. You've got to name stuff. This is the thing.
Projects need a name. Definitely.
Projects need a name, you know. Like it's like Linux distributions and like versions. You know, they good names.
Yeah.
It adds to the fun of the project. But yeah, so other than that, outside of work, moving in with a couple of mates to a house, which will be interesting in a couple of weeks. We got the house, which was nice.
Well done.
Thank you. It was a bit weird because we went, so literally we last Saturday, we went and saw the place and we're like, yeah, this is awesome. Then we got, because we actually wanted to, we found that place on another site beforehand. I'm sure the audience love to know about this. We found the site on another website. And we found on another site, but they kind of rejected us the first time because we were 3 blokes and having 3 guys together probably doesn't look that great. They always think it's just me parties all the time because obviously we are party animals. And so it's a couple that actually rent it out. And it's kind of her baby, this house. And it was quite funny because we met up with them on the Monday. And she was a bit kind of apprehensive thinking, yeah, we didn't actually know it was going to be you know. I was interviewing you. So we're like, yeah, you know. And I think what sold it was we just said, you're a bunch of geeks. That's pretty much it. Like we just said, yeah, we're a bunch of geeks. And then she was instantly, so I don't know whether that's a compliment or an insult, thinking, yeah, she was fine with it then.
So they thought you were safe because you were geeks.
Yeah, because the husband comes in and she goes, oh, they're geeks. And he's like, oh, that's all right then. I'm like, wow.
They're the ones like in the movies, though, that their houses always get crashed by the unruly kids, right?
That's it, you see, exactly. You're going to come around and just, you know, destroy the place. So
just destroy it, burn the place to the ground, definitely. Yeah.
I love it, just go to the extreme of burning the place to the ground. Not just come in and ruffle some feathers.
Knock a lamp over or break
myself.
Yeah. I remember once I went to a house party and the person who had the house party, the house was fine, but someone actually just stole the Sky box card.
What?
I mean, how mean is that?
That's outrageous.
Like, I'm not going to take the whole thing. I'm just going to take the card because I know you won't be able to work it then.
It was Fraser, wasn't it?
It was probably
Fraser.
Tell
Lazy will laugh.
Anyway, well, that's my week. How about you, Mickey?
Okay, so for me, the usual juggling baby, not literally, and work and
don't think juggling babies is a good thing.
No, not good. And just the studying thing is.
Yeah, how's it going?
Yeah,
like,
it's going really well.
I don't know if we talked about the courses properly on the pod.
Yeah,
have we?
I hope I don't, but I might have already talked about it. Fraser, you'll probably know, so just tell me shut up if I did. But basically, to summarise, I'm really, 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 really happy with my module choices. I just think one of them that I'm probably going to struggle with. But doing computer security, which I know is your sort of thing. You're interested in that kind of stuff, aren't you? So I'm having to basically do a lot of the baby Linux classes. They've basically set up
baby classes. I was like, okay, so at university for a master's they also teach you how to look after babies.
That's it, yeah. But no, because I'm not really, I do have experience of working with Linux systems, but I'm very much kind of go on Google, see how to do this, copy. Whereas now I'm actually learning how to a lot of the nuts and bolts of Linux, basically.
Like
so
philosophy and the file system and realizing how awesome it is.
So I could do a lot of these things a lot of things, commands, obviously, I could just do on the command line on terminal and Mac. But I've actually, because we're in a group, we're using what's the site called where it's No Machine or something like that. Oh, I can't remember what it's called now. It's something
like a virtual machine, cloud type thing. A
cloud service. And you basically just set up we've basically all got a version of Ubuntu, and we're just doing all cool stuff. Like at the moment, it's just really like baby steps, like just playing with like wildcards to search file directories and just piping programs together. Again, I've done all this stuff before, but I didn't really understand what was going on. So, and piping programs is very cool, and when you get your head around that, it's quite powerful, I guess.
It's amazing that of these simple tools, what you can actually do, isn't it? Like the Unix philosophy of making a program that specifically does something, but then obviously, as you say, you use the pipes to compose new programs out of them, and it is a really cool thing.
And the really strange thing is, like when I was growing up, like my dad basically always had loads of computers and stuff as part of his work, and they're really prehistoric things. But I remember like being quite adept at using like DOS back in the day. Right. And okay, I know the commands aren't identical or anything like that, but similar kind of environment. And I was quite confident with that. Whereas with Linux, I'm not confident at all. And all it is really is a file structure, like any other operating system. But especially when you're on the command line, you're taken away from that sort of graphics environment. It's just, I feel really not confident. It's crazy.
Just sudo rm dash RF star always works.
Yeah, so that is really, really interesting, and I just started like getting into the whole encryption thing, and just looking at the history of that, and I think like the very first one was like Caesar, and
Caesar ciphers,
the Caesar cipher, which is just basically like a 3 character shift, but really interesting stuff. And again, we've talked about it in earlier podcasts, but it's like you can have perfect code security wise, and then if you have a room that's just unlocked where your server sits.
That's exactly it's the physical security, not just the actual software security.
Exactly. So that's awesome. And then neural networks, again, I've done about 5 hours reading on that today. But
see, that just sounds really cool. Neural networks.
Very, very, very cool. And in fact, there's a guy in this country in London, I think it's John O'Keefe, has just won one of the Nobel Prizes for science, and his study of, basically he's done a study on rats, because you're going to study on rats, monkeys, and humans with epilepsy. But he's basically done a study, and I think it's on the hippocampus section of the brain with rats, which basically every time a rat enters a certain part of the room, this part of the brain like lights up basically, and you can see the activation of that brain. So it's pretty, really, really cool stuff, and actually it sounds complicated, but it's not too bad. Basically, it works on the same way that our computers do. That you've got an input, you've got a wait, and if it crosses a certain threshold, then it outputs something, and that's all it really. Well, I say that's all it really is. That's really simplifying what it is.
Over then, you've done it.
Yeah, but
input, output.
But the really interesting thing is that our computers don't work in the same way that the human brain does, and the fact that the human brain break it up into its little tiny parts is really quite dumb. All the neurons are really, really simple, but there's just I think it's like 10 billion in the brain, or not exactly, but around that number. Whereas our computers work on like 3 or 4 CPUs and all that kind of stuff. So it's really interesting. It's all about kind of mimicking nature to make something good in computer science.
Oh, that's very cool.
So sorry, I really did ramble on there, but that was.
And you've exchanged on your house as well this weekend, have you?
Yeah, that's really cool. Exchanging on Monday, and then we're completing a week later. So it's all happening now, and then it's basically just like 5-6 weeks is going to be like. Just gutting the place and installing new stuff before we can move in. So
you're going to burn it to the ground, because you're just in that mood, aren't you? I think.
Yeah, we know a man about. Yeah,
I'll certainly be hiding my Sky card next time I have you guys around.
Am I supposed to be here, by the way? Sorry to interrupt.
Wow,
I've just
been listening for the last 5 minutes. I didn't want to interrupt anyone because I know it doesn't tell you when someone joins the call.
We thought we'd invite you in case you wanted to be in. So. You can just sit in the background, or if you've got something to contribute, you go for it.
Okay. Is this just a casual Skype conversation, or?
No, this is
we're recording.
We're recording.
This is being recorded right now.
I actually just interrupt.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry.
This is how organised we are. Fantastic.
Perfect.
But yeah, anyway, that's my week. But how about you, Fraser?
It's only been a couple of days really since we recorded
last. It has, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. I don't have a massive amount to report, to be honest with you. I've been doing in the office. I've been doing a bunch of kind of front endy stuff, and not like exciting front endy stuff. Just kind of pixel pushing to get a kind of a front end profile page build look like exactly like a design and work how the guy wants it to do in terms of animations and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, it's been fairly uneventful. Freelance is going really well.
Yeah,
I've kind of looking at my Trello list at the moment. One project I've got one thing to do on one project, and one of the other projects I've got 10 items to do, and I think that's going to take a little bit longer. But yeah, it's pretty much all done for now, which is a great thing because I'll be able to get my evenings back to myself and hopefully have a bit more breathing space before I take on any more freelance.
More freelance stuff, and then we'll be back to it again.
Oh, that's the thing. Yeah, I want to give myself at least a month off because I've got a fairly busy next few weeks anyway. So I want to take a few weeks off, and then I'll probably take some more on after that. But yes, it's been really good. Not a lot else to report.
Are you still doing that London to France thing?
Yes, I am. Yeah,
Paris,
next weekend.
You're crazy.
No, it'll be fine, man.
No, you are just insane.
Yeah, it'll take 20. We reckon it's going to take 22 hours, including the ferry. So yeah, the plan's kind of leave Trafalgar Square at 8:00 in the morning next Saturday, and then basically ride our bikes until we get to the Eiffel Tower.
Very cool.
You're going to GoPro it and stuff like that, so you can see.
I'm going to take some video. Yeah, I don't know if I've not kind of made my mind up if I want to actually make a video out of it, because I know, like in the middle of the night, the last thing I'm going to want to have to do is get my camera out and kind of stick it in people's face and say, "How you feeling?"
and then there'll be a lot of beeping things out because of
exactly. Yeah. So I'd like to make a little. Just a quick 5-10 minute edit of it, but whether that happens or not, and if it does, it's more likely than not going to be just on my phone rather than on a GoPro or anything else.
So are you planning then the Saturday come back on the Sunday as well, or
come back on the Sunday? So we reckon we're going to
go to work
Paris
on Monday.
Yeah,
you're weird.
It's going to be pretty brutal, but yeah, because we're going to be on the ferry for, I think the ferry crossing takes about 4 hours, so we get like 4 hours sleep in the middle to kind of break it up. So we reckon it's going to take, I don't know, maybe, because we're only going to go a really leisurely pace, so 7 hours-ish down to New Haven from London, and then 4 hours on the ferry where we can sleep, and then we reckon maybe another, I don't know, 11, 12 hours to get to Paris from Dieppe. So kind of arrive in Paris at 6-7 o'clock in the morning, have champagne and croissants for breakfast, and kind of get on the train and sleep on the train and get a ferry and get home and sleep.
Wow,
that's so awesome. Cool.
That's the plan anyway.
Makes my life so boring.
Get a bike and come with us, man.
And die.
Sorry, just a quick one, guys, because I know we just talk about security and stuff, and I know I think, Fraser, you knew a bit more about this than I did, but I was just reading up about it on the whole Snapchat security thing in the week.
Yeah, I don't know a huge amount. Only what I've kind of heard through the blogs and stuff. But sorry, go on. I kind of like that.
No, that's cool. I was just reading that. I think basically, if this is to be believed, obviously, I think it was like a third-party app that. Yeah, use Snapchat, was that right? But
from what I understand, there was two, and kind of obviously first indications, like because of the fappening and everything that's been going on lately, like everyone's kind of gone to Snapchat and say, "Oh, this is outrageous," and then and quite rightly they've put their hands up and say nothing to do with us. Like people have been using third-party apps that we specifically prohibit in our terms of service. People have been using these, and these are the services that have been hacked, because I think these services allow you to save the snaps that get sent to you. I'm not sure what the services are that people have been using.
Well, I'm just reading here. Like, it says that basically there was hundreds of thousands of nude Snapchat photos that were then basically dumped onto another site.
It's a 4chan probably.
I don't know if I should be promoting the URL, but I think it was like viralpop.com or something.
Nice one, Vic.
I think it's been shut down now, so it's all safe.
Why do people like Snapchat? It makes no sense.
But the thing is, if you think about Snapchat's audience as well, like Snapchat's audience is predominantly younger people, isn't it? So this could be like a huge
user.
Yeah, I mean, my friend said to me, get Snapchat when it first came out, and I refused. I was like, look, I'm not getting this hipster app, okay? I don't want anything to do with this. And eventually, only recently have I actually got Snapchat after it's been out for, a year, maybe? Or about that?
Yeah, a couple of years maybe.
What you can do is actually pretty cool. So if you're both in the same chat together, because it's also an instant messaging service, the kind of send button turns blue, and if you hold that button down, when it turns blue, it means that you and the person you're speaking to are looking at the same screen, looking at your own chat, and you can then do kind of just like a video call, but it's all free. They just uses your Wi-Fi to do it. It's all through the internet. And I think that's really cool how it works. But
so it's basically like Skype and
Instant Messenger
and Hangouts and
it's
FaceTime
everything.
and...
It's everything. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
But that blue button, is that then like a stock notification button? Like people are knowing that you don't have any prior conversation, but then the line turns blue when you're both looking at the screen, not talking to each other? That sounds rather creepy.
It is a bit weird, and both of you are, there. But I guess you'd only talk to people that you know, because that would be a bit weird.
Yeah, because of like its target, well, not its target demographic, but it seems to be picked up a lot by kind of like teenagers and stuff, doesn't it? And so with all these photos getting out there, there's going to be a lot of like questionable material floating about the internet because of it, I would have thought.
Yeah, I'm not surprised because people go, oh, it's just Snapchat, don't worry about it, and they, you can send pictures for like 1 second, which is kind of pointless, but that's the fun of it. You can send whatever you want to anyone. You don't even have to. So when you send a friend, you don't really send friend invites. As long as you have their Snapchat name, you can send them things. So if I just add Mike, for instance, I can start sending him things, but he won't be able to stop it. He won't be able to stop it unless he blocks me, I guess. I don't know how that works, but yeah, he can just do that. And he has to add me to send me stuff back, I guess. But yeah, so you can just send funny pictures for like a couple seconds because you don't want people to see it for too long or whatever. Yeah. But if you do screenshot the Snapchat
it lets them know, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sends a notification saying your Snapchat has been screenshot. So
it's just a weird idea. I mean, it makes kind of sense as a good gimmick, but people start using it for really taking, like actually use like what you could just use. It's like, oh, it sucks that it only lasts for a second. It's like you could use just a normal.
Yeah, but I guess that's the thing, isn't it? And like, do you think there's a single male on the planet that installed Snapchat without the reasoning of this is going to be awesome because I'm going to get pictures of boobs? And I've never had a single picture of boobs sent to me on Snapchat, so it's quite a disappointment, to be honest. But
I'll send you one, man. Don't worry.
My friend on my course, he said, Sasha, you should get Snapchat. And I was like, why is that? He said, because look at this. And there's this girl who just kind of takes pictures of herself naked and sends them to everyone. I was
what's her username? No.
I don't know. He was like, "Do you want to know your username?" I was like, "I don't want to know anything about it. I just don't want to know. I don't want to get involved
tell
with that."
Me the username.
And, don't tell me in public. Tell me later. No, and I was like, "Oh, that's okay. I guess that's cool." But at the same time, it's like I don't want to. I don't know. I wouldn't get an app just for that. That's so weird. Like, why you could just do it any other way? Why does it have to be that way? I just think that I wouldn't. I just think it's really weird that people do that and they kind of become popular.
Oh,
sort of
over Snapchat.
Before we get any feminist backlash, I think maybe we should move on. But Frank, would it be okay to introduce yourself a little bit and tell us what you do?
Oh yeah, sure. Well, I'm Frank, of course. I'm a freelance developer living in Amsterdam. Grew up just right outside of Amsterdam, and for the last couple of years I've been working hard, getting things done in the open source spectrum of PHP, so to say. So now recently, over the last, I think, 4 or 5 months, one of my projects is really picking on, which is Flysystem. Which has gained a lot of traction, and so that's what I'm working on now, pretty much. Well, not full time, but in my spare time, a lot of it goes there. Of my time goes there, dedicated to like fixing issues, working out new stuff for newer versions, and so that's basically what I do. Apart from my freelance work.
That's awesome. Flysystem's amazing. I was wondering, how do you juggle then, like your freelance work and your open source work? Do you like I'm going to spend an hour a day on open source, or is it more like this day I'm open source?
Well, it depends. I just started getting back into freelancing early this year. I had a company with a partner before, which I quit to get back into freelancing. So I haven't yet managed to get a steady flow of jobs. So sometimes there's just a week where there's no work. So those are really nice windows to get a lot of stuff done. So I don't really have to juggle it all that much. It might become more of a problem once I get more jobs. But yeah, if I have a job, my open source contributions will kind of, they'll still be there, but they'll be significantly less. And I use my my evening hours for it as well, or my night hours even. So it's really maybe the classical I'm gonna hack this in the night kind of thing. Yeah,
that's awesome. So how did you get into programming then? It's always an interesting question.
Oh yeah, mine is. I've told this a couple of times before, and it's even amusing for my non-programmer friends, because I was just out of high school, I guess, and I was in a band with a couple of friends of mine, and we played like funk rock music. And when you have a band, then of course every band needs a website, right? So, but we were all flat broke, so there was no way that we could ever afford to set something up with somebody else that we needed to pay. So then I just told them, my brothers are good with computers, and I'm not too bad, so I could just learn this stuff, right? So I figured that I would just first ask some people that I knew who were doing that stuff, which there was only one person that I knew who was doing website stuff. So I asked him, and he showed me some things, and I just took it from there, basically tried to learn everything there was, but I was pretty isolated because that one friend, he taught me a little bit about how PHP worked, and he showed me one way to make a database connection, and probably still used like the MySQL real estate.
Yep.
So once I got that website up, I thought, it's going to be cool if I get something interactive on that site. And then I added a shout box, which was quite popular back in the day, and which was basically just open for anybody. I didn't know anything about security or whatever. So I launched the band website and was there for a good week. And then after a while, I think it was a week or a week and a half later, and a friend of me called me up, and he was like, "Dude, have you seen your website?" And I was like, no, what's up? He's like, you better look for yourself.
Oh no.
I came back to my website, and basically what happened is somebody added 15 iframes of gay porn sites.
Okay.
Oh, no.
And 27 JavaScript alerts with the alert text was shaken, not stirred. So once you open the site, you instantly have to block all these JavaScript alerts, and you're confronted with full frontal nudity, something you might not be into.
So you learned security the hard way then, PHP security the hard way.
After that, I was just like, this is never going to happen to me ever again. I'm just going to research all there is and just ensure that this will never happen again. So that's my... I was actually more like catapulted into programming, as in, I need to fix this. I need to acquire knowledge in order for this not to go like this ever again.
So, what do you? I suppose was it the friend then who drew you, made you use PHP and like drew to PHP?
Yeah. Like I had no clue whatsoever, like what was out there. It was like, yeah, you can do programming several different ways. I was just like, okay, but the way that I can probably ask some things and find out some of the basics through him. So that made sense for me then, just to use the stuff that had the most resources, that had the lowest barrier of entry in the programming world. That kind of boils down to PHP, which is what I like about it too, because from every level out there, you can just go into PHP, do something, make it work, and it might not be the nicest stuff, but you can get started at least.
Get stuff done, yeah.
Yeah. So and that was probably what got me hooked on PHP, also because it allows you to learn. It allows you to do stuff. Just do stupid stuff first and then progress and do stuff better later. It's not that bad to make lots of errors early on. You can have cheap shared hosting and they'll cover the basics for you. You just have to protect your database tables basically, and the rest is kind of taken care of. And like your app might break, but when you're starting out, that's not the worst thing in the world. Those things really start to get important when you're further on, like if you're doing stuff commercially.
That's it, yeah, when you've got clients to deal with.
Yeah. Like if you have somebody who's paying for you to do something correctly, like that's the point where you have to know your stuff. But before that, you can just mess around, see what happens, try to make silly things, just like I'm sorting an array, now everything is in a different order. Wow, that blew my mind. And it's
absolutely
that stage of being learning and witnessing program being taught, witnessing what happens, it was the most amazing feeling, actually. So that really got me hooked. Like I can think of stuff and then make something else, do that over and over and over. That was just the most brilliant concept ever to me.
That's awesome. And so you mentioned that you're doing freelance now. Have you done that in the past then? Have you done quite a bit of freelance work during the years? Yeah.
I started out as a freelancer, but it quickly turned into me starting a company with a friend. It was for small, really small businesses. And once I started that company, that really got the companies that I then worked for were way bigger, like magnitude of 100 times bigger. So that's awesome. So yeah, I've done it quite a bit, but
and do you enjoy freelance more than? So I suppose have you only ever done do you enjoy freelance?
Connection just dropped.
Oh, sorry. Do you enjoy freelance work? Because at the moment, Mickey is. I'm sure Mickey wouldn't mind me saying doing freelance work.
For me, I'm not really a 9-to-5 person ever. So being able to mix up doing the 9-to-5 stuff with just getting up at 10, being at my studio at 12, and then just hacking away till 10 or 12 in the evening is just the most liberating thing. Like I can, I don't have to do stuff at a certain time. Like I just have to keep the promises that I've made and not keep the promises that somebody else has made for me. So in a way, that's really liberating. So yeah, it does give a lot of it's a really good sense of freedom, actually. So yeah, I can totally see why he's hooked on it.
Yeah. I get a little bit wound up. I think we were talking with Fraser about this the other day, but I find freelance work quite difficult in the fact that sometimes it's hard to define like when that completion line is, that completion date, when you think a project's done and then a client comes back with lots of other things. But I guess, like you say, if that's your main 9 to 5 thing, or well, not your 9 to 5 thing, obviously, but if you're just freelancing and doing other stuff on the side, I guess it's a little bit easier to manage.
Yeah. Well, for me, I'm just if I'm doing projects, I have the same complications basically, but it's all about. For me, what I've learned is that it's all about managing expectations. A lot of people, they get so excited about a project, and then they tend to forget about those little details. And I've learned that the hard way a couple of times, where I thought, okay, I'm going to need this feature, and that will round things up, right? But the client had totally different thoughts about that, and I ended up like doing, I think, 50 to 70 hours over my estimation.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, and if you translate that into money or time that you could otherwise spend on something that doesn't annoy you, then, because if you expect something to be done and it's not, it's the worst thing ever, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you hit that bump a couple of times, and then you really got to ask yourself, like, how it's probably me that made this happen, right?
Yeah.
You are the one taking the job. You are the one translating the requirement or the request into something that you then estimate. So it's basically all you.
Yeah, I completely agree.
So then you really have to figure out, like, how can I improve this? And for me, every time it all boils down to managing expectations. And those situations, if you write it out, it sounds really boring. Like somebody says, I want a blue square, and you think, okay, that's super simple, right? But if you then go back and ask, do you really want a blue square? There might be like, no, I was talking about a red circle. And that's actually a conversation that's quite common in our industry. Like, you could totally misunderstand something or misread the requirements. So getting feedback on that is super important.
Yeah.
And that helps a lot. Yeah.
And when you're speccing projects out, do you go into great lengths of detail to say you are going to get exactly this, that, and the other, and you won't be getting this, that, and the other, or do you I'm curious to know how you, when you go to the client and say, okay, this is what you're going to get, how detailed is that document? Is it like tens of pages or hundreds of pages, or is it?
Well, I tend to do it more in I wouldn't say the Scrum Agile way, but I do chunk it up into really small portions, and you define end goals for the project that you aspire, but you don't define everything that's going to be there at the end, because most projects, in total, they might take 3 months, but along the way, a lot of stuff changes. So you really have no gain in speccing out the full thing.
Right.
It's actually gonna set the wrong expectations, actually, because things are gonna change. So why would you claim that it's all gonna be the same at the end, right?
Okay. Yep.
So I do it in small portions, and it's more about reaching goals than saying what's going to be there. So if you want a problem to be solved, you can either describe what kind of tool you're going to use or describe the solution. So that might be a little abstract or vague, or but you can say, well, there's going to be this page, and there is a text field, and then you have a WYSIWYG editor, and then you have a save button, and if you edit it, you can edit stuff, you can sort stuff. But if somebody asks for a publication platform or something to manage his tweets, that's the problem they want solved, and they don't want to have a description of a CRUD edit page.
Gotcha. Yep.
Yeah. So, so no lengthy, mile-long documents for me. I just think that's super counterproductive.
Yeah.
I just
had a really interesting experience with a client that we were working with a few weeks ago. And it probably doesn't fall into a similar category. He's basically a small business. He wanted a website to represent his business because his current website wasn't so good. And then we gave him a spec document saying, okay, you're going to have a contact page, you're going to have your home page, you're going to have an about us page where you list all your services, blah, 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 this is what you're going to have. And then we did designs. I mean, the designer I work with, we gave him designs, and so he saw exactly what he was going to get. And then I built the website, and then we handed it over to him and said, okay, well, here you go. Like we've done what was asked of us. Here's your website. And he's like, can you put a gallery page in? And I said, well, there was no spec there was nothing mentioned in the spec for the gallery page. Yeah, so we can certainly build one for you. It's going to cost you this amount of money. And then I got a really shirty email back saying, where the F in the original contract did it say that it's going to cost this much money for a gallery? And I was a little bit taken back by this. And because there was literally no mention of a gallery page. There was nothing in the designs that suggested there might be a gallery page. But then I guess, kind of from my point of view, I kind of took it back a step and thought, well, hang on a second, should we have maybe said you're not going, like actively said you're not going to get a gallery page? Like we put in the spec document.
Sometimes do that in projects. Like, it's not going to be this, it's not going to be that, but it is going to be this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we kind of spec'd out exactly. We said, you are going to get this. Anything else above this is going to cost this much money. So I pointed him out that line. He said, okay, well, can you specify exactly in that contract where it says that I won't be getting a gallery page? I was like, well, no, but there's nothing in there that says you're not going to get full.
What's he going to ask for next? Like,
exactly,
I was expecting for me to get a Ferrari out of this deal.
yeah. Where does it say I'm not getting a free Ferrari?
Does it not say that I'm getting a Ferrari?
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, we ended up shipping the project without a gallery page in the end. And, but that was a real project that really kind of threw me back and did kind of make me question how I'm actually speccing stuff out for clients.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those kind of things are definitely good learning curves.
Always.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, obviously, you were talking about your band website and when it got hacked and everything, and I've had that. I've had it twice, in fact, which is even worse. But in fact, the second time I had to get Ed to just basically go through my whole file structure and just check what had been infected or anything like that. And it really did knock my confidence, actually, like when it happened. Because by that time, I was like, I considered myself, I was fairly established at the time. I was thinking, that shouldn't be happening. And I really hate the people who do that, to be fair. But I know the onus is on us to protect against that. But I do think anyone who's listening who's had that as well, it does knock your confidence. It's not a nice experience.
Yeah.
So I guess we should talk a little bit about Flysystem, if you don't mind, to go into a bit more detail about what that is and where people can find that stuff.
Yeah, sure. Well, just as a basic introduction, Flysystem is a package that maps APIs. That's the real abstract thing, right? But what it actually does is it allows you to use the same API for whichever backend file system storage mechanism you might want to use. So whether it's local on your own server or over FTP, if you need to get something from client FTP or whatever, or it's S3 or Dropbox, or we've got a copy.com adapter also now. So and there are quite a number of other adapters, and people have been pushing out their custom adapters too. So there have been adapters for Flickr and YouTube as well, which is a bit crazy, but yeah, it works. But it basically allows you to use a file system as this abstract concept of somewhere where you put files. And your application or your domain model doesn't have to know where those files are coming from or where they're stored. They just need to know, like, from a path, what is the relative path to a file, and that's the stuff that Flysystem allows you to do, and it allows you to pivot on the spot if the project needs a different data store, or you want to manage assets on S3. You can just basically hot swap the adapter. Well, not really hot swap, but you can swap the adapter and migrate the files over, and you're done. You don't need to change anything else anymore. So that allows people to reduce technical debt, and that's a great win in many projects out there, especially in the world that we now live in, where specifications aren't as clear, and you want to reach a goal, but you're not sure what you're going to be doing next week on this project, maybe even. So having a tool like Flysystem really helps a lot on that account.
That is awesome. I was wondering, like, how did it come about then? Was this just an idea you had, or was it a problem that you were trying to solve for a project or something along those lines?
Yeah, I had a project, and it was actually super annoying because, I don't know, have you ever done anything with FTP on with PHP?
Yes, it's not not the nicest.
It's horrible. It's the most horrible thing ever. Like, you want to die 1,000 deaths. You would rather want to die 1,000 deaths than having to deal with FTP on PHP. Well, FTP in general is pretty bad, but FTP on PHP is the worst. So I had this project, and we needed to get XML files, another fabulous format, and we needed to read that and convert it and populate a database with that information. But I was working for not remotely, on location for a client, and while I was working there, I was behind this whitelisted IP, so I could just address the FTP server. But when I wanted to work remotely, I couldn't. Like, I just got connections errors, and then I figured, like, what if I can use the same API for local as I'm doing on FTP? I just have to map a couple of function names and normalize the result a little, and then it's basically just the same. So I did that, and then I was able to work from home and still mimic that file structure, that relative path to my local drive. And then while I was there, I could just work on the FTP. So that allowed me to do both things at the same time with the same API. And once I had that, it really got me thinking about how that would apply to other things. So basically, that was the 0.1 version, and then I got really excited about the whole idea and started just writing a whole bunch of adapters, like for S3 and Dropbox and everything, looking into how everything should be done, realizing that if you're doing stuff like that, you really have to learn a lot. Like the AWS SDK is a ginormous beast, and that's something that you, as a developer, first need to invest in if you want to be able to tackle those sort of things for your application. And if you can deal with something once, why would you deal with it over and over and over? So that really got me motivated to put more time into it and make more adapters, make it bigger, make it better. Well, not necessarily bigger, but just make it better, put some time in, and see what people think. And I worked on it for a month, and then I thought, well, okay, this is basically finished and out there. And now I'm 13 months in, and I'm probably spending 15 hours at least on Flysystem a week.
Wow, that is so cool. And
so yeah, but it's paid off. Like it's a nice piece of software now. It's getting a lot of adoption. So I'm invited on podcast now, which is.
You've basically just abstracted all the dirty, horrible stuff and just made it really nice. So you've just got this one unified API, and all the method names are there. It doesn't matter what you're using; you just can use those. That's really nice.
Yeah, and it also adds a lot of testability too, because if you want to test like the normal PHP functions, I don't know if you've ever done that with local file system stuff. But you actually have to be in a namespace then and redefine the function and mimic the characteristics and also mimic the outputs for every single case that you want to test on. That stuff is just horrible. Like you don't ever want to do that ever more than once. Like I had to do it once because of Flysystem, but I'm super glad that in every
Never
project
have to do it again.
I don't ever have to do that ever again.
So what brought you to the League of Extraordinary Packages then? Did you just get contacted, or did you contact them, or?
I have I've done some open source stuff in the past. I was a core member of the Fuel PHP framework. I don't know if you guys know that framework.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I did that for a while, and on the team, the guy who brought me, got me more involved was Phil Sturgeon, and he had this idea with, I think, Alex Bilby, yeah, and Ben Corlitz, just to group some packages together, have a common vendor namespace, and just have them be up to par, right? Proper tests, proper coding standards, good code quality. Just try to put the best out there. And I had some other packages that that Phil asked for me to get on board there, but then I opted for Flysystem, which nobody at that time knew, except for a couple of people that are friends of mine. And by the way, it wasn't called the PHP League or the League of Extraordinary Packages back then. It was actually called the Super Best Friends Club. But yeah, you can still this name is, of course, it's still a tongue-in-cheek name, but that name was just flat out ridiculous. So we needed to change that, and we did, and since then it's got a lot of traction. Once we got the Twitter account for that, I think within a week that account had more Twitter followers than I have on my account.
Oh no!
Yeah. Well, that's so basically it was just Phil asking me if I had a good project that wanted to comply to the rules that they had made up, and since then I've been a very active member. We're formalizing some stuff right now, getting internal communication sorted, and so really getting somewhat more professional in our little gang.
No, it's really good. It's a really nice idea that, to have this kind of aggregation of good stuff. And so with Fuel then, so do you still work on Fuel? Do you still use Fuel day to day?
Actually, I don't anymore. The projects that I'm working on now are mostly projects that I don't start. So I don't get a lot of greenfield assignments. I'm mostly pulled into larger teams if they need assistance, or they need a replacement or a specialist for something. So then sometimes I have to work with Zend, which I don't really like.
Lovely. Yep.
Yeah, especially I had a project that was on Zend 1.11, which is I think probably the most bad code base I've ever seen.
Yeah, we're happy to get rid of that one. It's like goodbye.
Yeah. And then other times I'm working on Laravel apps 3 and 4, version 3 and 4, or Symfony apps. So really, I don't have a choice in frameworks anymore, and my interest has shifted from. I was really down with the whole framework thing because I just thought that was the most brilliant thing ever, because I was fairly new to open source, and I just saw this ginormous toolbox of all this awesome stuff that I could use. But it was, most frameworks back then were I want to be the tool for every single thing you do out there. And I just don't believe that anymore. So I'm not really interested in frameworks as a concept anymore. So packages that tackle a specific problem, I'm all down for that. So that's what I'm focusing on now. But yeah, frameworks for me, it's not an unsolved problem. It's not new territory. It's not something that's really revolutionary or anything. So it's just, most of it has already been done. It's just polishing now.
Yeah, another amalgamation of like another thing that someone's got.
Yeah, and I can put proper code into any shit framework.
Yep.
Like, a framework shouldn't be the bottleneck for getting good code out there. Of course, it helps, and it helps a lot. In some cases, it will make things easier. But you can, if you do the package-based approach, you can really facilitate that for yourself as well. Most of the things that people like about frameworks, like I want to be able to route to a controller, or do have a dependency injection container. There are all packages for that, and there's not a you have to go to this one-stop shop. Like there's not just one solution, but something that's not in a popular framework might really be suitable for you. So doing it that way, really suits my way of thinking and way of working. And especially because I have to work on different kinds of code bases, you don't have the luxury of dictating the tools you work with anyway. So relying on something that you can bring in yourself is a lot easier.
With all these code bases, do you find that Composer is the savior, because then you can bring in packages and stuff like that? And
yeah, hell yeah. My life would probably not be as nice if it wasn't for Composer, because I would be carrying, or maybe I'd still use Git for that, of course, but it would feel like I would have to have a USB stick with my favorite libraries and ship them around wherever I go. Like PHP life before Composer is pretty much the Stone Age.
It does feel that way, doesn't it? It's crazy that it's only been around a couple of years, but it has completely changed the way we use and work with PHP.
Yeah, and this is what I mean, right? It's not a framework. It's something that wasn't defined in PHP land before. It was somewhere else, but it wasn't in PHP land in a way that was really nicely usable. Like, of course, you had Peckle and stuff like that, but or Pair and more like Pair.
Yeah.
But everybody was hesitant to really get into it. It didn't have a nice barrier of entry. Nobody on shared hosting could do anything with that. So, it basically excluded, I think, more than 50%, at least, probably 80% of the PHP installations were excluded in that setup. So
that's just insane, isn't it?
Don't quote me on that figure. I could be horribly wrong.
Guesstimated figure, but it does sound realistic.
Yeah. So, but Composer really changed that a lot. And I think more things have really benefited the PHP landscape. Like tools like Vagrant and tools like even like things like Chef and Puppet and Ansible.
Yep.
They allow people to get really difficult stuff up and running in no time without having to acquire a massive amount of knowledge. Like, you can provision an Ubuntu server on your desktop, whether on Windows or on Mac or Linux, whatever, with basically the same configuration,
exactly
which you can just get online, and you're up and running. So, like, how easy is it to have something, to have a development environment now? Like, and to have that and to have people be able to have the rights that were otherwise not granted for them on, say, a shared hosting, really allows them to explore. And it allows people to make mistakes because you can just destroy the box and try again. And this has helped me a lot personally get more into the whole Linux stuff, because in one situation, I was just starting a project and I wanted to get some auto-deployment stuff, roll my own auto-deployment stuff going. And for some reason, I can't really recall what I did, but I basically locked myself out of SSH then. That was a couple of years, right? And probably anybody who has messed with SSH has probably done this.
Yep, I've done it before as well. Yep.
Yeah. So, but if you then try to do stuff with Vagrant and Ansible, and then you just SSH into that box, mess around, and if you screw up, just
start again.
Fresh install, and you're good to go again. Like, how easy is it to have such a fault-tolerant setup and just try stuff out? It's brilliant.
It's great for experimentation, isn't it? As you say, and it's not that, because now with virtual machines and all that, and with Vagrant providing that nice layer, that we don't have to have like a Linux box. You don't have to have a specific other box that you use to test operating systems or test a certain setup. You can just script it, run it. If it works, great. If it doesn't, start again.
Yeah.
It is amazing. I mean, another thing, actually, I noticed that you went to Laracon this year, and it was hosted in Amsterdam. I was very jealous of that, because that would have been very cool. I just wondered
Why didn't you guys go?
I know.
You were in Amsterdam quite recently.
I was actually in Amsterdam quite recently, but unfortunately at work and stuff, started a new job, and it all kind of, But next year, I think, actually, saying that, I remember Dale, when he came on, that there may be one in England, in the UK.
Yeah. I've heard some rumors about that.
Yeah, so that would be quite interesting.
That would be cool.
It would be very cool. I'm just wondering, how was it? Was it a really good experience?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, it was. I was at Laracon EU last year as well, and I've actually spoken at both of the conferences. And last year was the first year, right? So everything was new, and they do. You guys know Sean McCool, right?
Yeah.
Sean McCool and the lesser known Jeroen Gerrits. He's actually a buddy of mine, and they co-organized this stuff, and they've done such an amazing job. Like the venue was top notch. The people that were speaking both years, like to be amongst quality speakers like that was the most amazing experience. Everything was just well organized, a super welcoming crowd. Every night after every day, we'd go out for beers with a group of people, and it would always be like you'd have a main gang, but always be different people that were tagging along. But like the group would get as big as like 30 people, which is
a lot of people to
that's
talk
pretty
to.
big, right? Like I've only been to Laracons as conferences, so I can't really compare it to anything else because I haven't experienced anything else. But for me, that just sounds like a very, very large group. And it was quite difficult to manage such a large group in Amsterdam, but it worked out, and it was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun.
That's awesome. And what did you actually do your talk on then?
I talked about Flysystem, so for me it was a shameless self-promotion 101.
Oh no, it's an absolutely amazing package, so there's nothing wrong there. I was wondering, what is the future for Flysystem? Have you got any crazy ideas more, or are you just thinking at the moment it's kind of done and you're just maintaining it?
Oh no, the stuff that I'm working on now for Flysystem is it's more on a code level basis that I'm gonna do massive refactoring. Basically, the next version isn't gonna look internally. It's gonna look nothing like it is now, but it's gonna work exactly the same. So it's gonna have the code is much more pure in a sense in the next version, but it won't have any big backwards compatibility changes. So trying not to break anything is a big challenge for me, but trying to get it up to par with the coding standards that I have now, that's a big challenge. So it's not going to be like in a week or in 2 weeks. It's a on the long run kind of scenario. Yeah. But code quality wise, it will be massively improved, and through that, it will get a lot of new, nicer ways of using it. Like now, you've got this file system object that you're using, right? And you've got a read and a read stream, and you've got all these different metadata inspection things, and they're all kind of bundled together, which is nice. And but in some ways, it's also a conflict of interest. Like if you look code quality wise, the file system class on tools like Scrutinizer, it's rated critical because it's far too big. Like it is one massive thing. So that's going to be split up. And because it's split up at the front layer, it's also got to be split up at the back. So every adapter will be split up into little tasks, which will make everything a lot easier to manage, and the code quality and the overall stability will be massively improved. So that's what I'm working on over the next few months, really.
That's cool. Well, I was just wondering, actually, another question. I'm hogging you at the moment. So,
no worries.
What is the PHP community like in Amsterdam? Like,
it's brilliant.
Is it really?
Really, we've got a user group here, and actually, I'm doing my Flysystem talk there this Thursday. I've talked there one time before. That was actually my first talk, and it's such a welcoming group, and I don't know if you guys know Raphael Domes.
Yes.
Okay. Well, he's the leader of our little gang of misfits, but the gang is not really small anymore. Like, on average, on a meetup, like 60 to 80 people will attend.
Wow, that is crazy.
Wow.
So like 70 on average. That's pretty decent. I've seen other meetup groups, like if they had 25 people, it was a well-attended meetup group. If Amsterdam PHP would have 25 people attending, people would be worried, I think. like where have all the people gone? Is there Armageddon going on?
Why aren't you here for this meetup?
So yeah, no, and it's super welcoming. We have a lot of new and up and coming speakers. Like, I've only talked at a couple of events, like 2 Laracons. I've done a couple of meetup groups, and like now here in this podcast is not a really talk thingy, but it is a speech thingy. So I'm still really new to this, and the Amsterdam PHP community really embraces new people and tries to guide them and gives them a chance to see if it's something for them, and try to. So yeah, we've got awesome speakers. Like at Laracon, we had Erica Heidi, we had Raphael Domes himself, we had Michelle Sonfer, we had Ross Tuck, and I. We were all speaking, and we're all Amsterdam PHP meetup attendees.
That is so awesome.
Wow, that is cool.
Guys, I hate to cut it short, but we have got over the hour mark, so we probably should call it a day.
No, it's been
Really
fantastic.
thank you
mate.
so
Done
much.
really
Thank
good.
you guys for having me on.
It's
Not
been
at all,
great,
man. It's
mate.
been- yeah, we'll get you on again.
Yeah,
Cool.
definitely.
Yeah, sounds
Yeah.
good.
Well, if we go to Laracon next year in Amsterdam, we'll have to meet up and join you with those 30 other people for a few beers.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll be the personal tour guide. No worries.
Yes.
That would be awesome.
That would be awesome. Yeah.
Try and keep Ed out of trouble, because last time he went, he got himself in a bit of trouble in Amsterdam. So.
Cool.
Oh, dear.
Thanks, Frank. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank
Thanks
you
a lot,
so
man.
much.
All right.
You're welcome, guys.
Thanks for listening, guys. We'll be back next week.
You've been listening to 3 Devs and a Maybe. You can contact us at contact@3devsandamaybe.com or follow us on Twitter at 3 Devs and a Maybe.